everybody. Welcome to our Hidden Gems episode of the podcast. We're really excited to be here today, and we are doing another one of our diversity in film showcases where we talk about films on all the different streaming services that showcase people of color and other types of expressions of diversity that we want to get the word out about these films, and we're really excited to talk about them. I'm film critic Rachel Wagner, and I'm joined by my friend Ryan, who's here.
Hi, Rachel. It is so good to be with you, as always.
And we have a special guest, my fellow YouTuber friend of the podcast. We have Ronald Smith is here.
Greetings, y'all. I'm glad to be here. Glad to put a good time.
Yeah. So you were on our best movies of the decade collaboration that we did.
Yes.
But if people don't know you, know about your channel, why don't you introduce yourself?
I would love to do that. My channel is my name, Ronald E. Smith. I always believe that everybody has a story. Everyone's come from somewhere. So what I love to do is interview people. I love to get to sit down with them and chat with them and to see where they come from, where they started from, and how they got here, and the challenges and the problems that they dealt with to get where they are now. I love it because I love to bring them and make them comfortable with what we do.
Yeah.
And that's what I love doing.
And you're good at it. And I know from experience because I was able to be one of your interviewees, and that was really fun. It feels like a million years ago. When was that we did that? Was it in February?
Yeah, like everything feels like so long ago.
Yeah, March lasted about 6 years. April lasted about 5. I'm surprised that I'm not a father right now because so much time has passed.
I actually grow my hair out to the point I just finally got a haircut. Like, geez Louise.
Yeah, my hair grows thick, not long. So I was just like, am I turning into the Wolfman? What's going on here? And then when I got a cut, it was like, I think I lost like 10 pounds.
Exactly. You feel like a whole weight was off your shoulders. Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah, I know. Everybody was getting this like kind of overgrown Bigfoot kind of look going on there for a little while.
Yeah,
I can hide it because I have long hair, so it's not a big deal. But yeah, it was pretty funny.
Yeah,
so many big fears.
My big fear was that I was going to become one of the members of the Bee Gees or something.
The Bee Gees.
Yeah.
Staying alive. Staying alive.
Well, that's the best we can hope for in 2020. Yeah, so we hope you're all doing very well, and I'll put a link down to our first diversity showcase that we did with my friend Eli Sanza, and that was really, really fun. And now we're here again, and we are doing 3 picks, each of us, that we think are worth checking out, and what streaming service that you can watch them on. And so let's just dive in. This is going to be great. And so my first choice is on HBO Max. And this was a film that I watched at Sundance called On the Record. And this is a pretty tough to watch documentary. Like when we first started, they were like, we have counselors in the lobby for if anybody's triggered and stuff, which I thought was a little much, but it is a pretty tough to watch documentary. It's about these women, particularly a woman named Drew Dixon, who was an executive at Def Jam Records for many years, and her story of basically being raped and assaulted by Russell Simmons, who is the co-founder of Def Jam Records, and not only her, but other women who had very similar stories. And that's the most creepy part, is listening to them each share their stories and them to be like so similar in the way they were, the way they were preyed upon. And L.A. Reid is kind of basically like helped ruin her career because she wouldn't agree with his advances and with Russell, and anyway, and so it's pretty tough to watch. And they also talk about how like the Me Too movement, that because they felt like Black men are often sort of marginalized and under attack, they felt bad bringing these assaults to being part of the Me Too movement, bringing the assaults to the forefront, because it was like, well, that's one more thing that against a knock against Black men, which of course, like is not like, if you've been assaulted, you need to bring that forward, and there needs to be some justice. And so there was also a lot of talk about why Black women are hesitant to bring these things forward. And they even go back into some of the history, even as far back as slavery and different things. And it was really searing and draining to watch. And anyway, but it's worthwhile and important, and to hear their stories. There were a couple little things I kind of wished that about her personal life with Drew that I wish we had learned a little bit more about. Like, she all of a sudden in the middle of the documentary announces that she's left her husband, and it was I kind of wanted to know a little more about that. But that's a small quibble of a very like searing and well done and tough to watch important documentary. So I don't know if either of you have heard of this at all. This on
I heard about it in review before. Yeah,
I had never even heard of this story, let alone this documentary.
Mm-hmm.
So it was. So when you sent me the pic of this, and like, on the record, where is that from? And I looked it up. And I'm like, wow, I am surprised that this wasn't like at least reported on. But I guess they made it into a documentary, which is good.
Yeah. So you'd heard an interview, Ron?
yeah. I heard about this in another review because I don't have HBO Max, but I heard it in a review from Double Toasted, and I remember one allegation from Russell Simmons before, but it wasn't really it was there, but it wasn't dug deep enough. Like it was kind of like brushed to the side, and when just what you were talking about and how they were talking about it, I'm still like, dang, like it is rough.
Yeah, it is rough. Yeah,
and
so
that
it's
happens a
not
lot in the business too.
Yeah, it's not the kind of movie to watch on a Friday night with your friends. It's the kind of movie. It's the kind of movie to.
Let's come and watch On the Record about.
Yeah.
Like,
I've been waiting for that.
Really messed up situation. It's like.
Yeah, like I said, they literally had counselors present at Sundance.
It seems like it's definitely necessary.
Yeah, and there's I think, let's see, there's 5 or I think 6 different women in the film, and that all, it's just really creepy how similar each of their stories is, and the way that they were preyed upon is just it's just sad. And so it's definitely something I think worth checking out. And it's kind of weird because I wish we could get more information from Oprah on it, because she originally was an executive producer and she was very involved, and then all of a sudden she dropped her involvement, and then she wasn't at Sundance. She I think kind of last minute just didn't end up showing up at Sundance. So I don't know what the problem is there, but so yeah, I like they say here on Wikipedia, it says Winfrey only informed the directors of her departure 20 minutes before making it public, and so they were totally blindsided by Oprah all of a sudden cutting ties. So I'd love to know why, because I don't know, that's a little bit weird to me.
Kind of sketchy.
Yeah.
Doesn't sound fishy at all.
Yeah. So that would be interesting. Maybe there's a documentary there that they can do. I don't know.
Documentaryception.
But I didn't mean to start the podcast off on such a downer. So sorry about that. But it's important. It's important.
Oh, this is what we showed to do. It's okay.
Yeah. So Ron, what do you have as your first pick?
All right, I'm gonna continue the train going. I got LA 92. and that is and you can find that on Netflix, but also too, you can find it on YouTube for free for a little bit. It is basically a documentary on the Rodney King trials and how everything was building up to it. And when we all know in the end, Rodney King, the cops that beat Rodney King got off free, LA went down,
Right.
like burned down to see. And it resembles a lot that's happened today in the past few weeks and months of the riots that recently been happening. And the one thing people always want to know about the riots and stuff, like they come out of the blue, which isn't true. The documentary completely shows it, how it was like a seed. It was planted, and all of the black people were just mad, like, because for years and years crime's been going on and justice was never served, and they felt that, okay, this is gonna be it. He's caught on tape. They're gonna get these cops. They're gonna go to jail, and they didn't, and it escalated. And I'm telling you, it's just like watching Rewind, because everything that you've seen happen today happened in that documentary. Burned everything to the ground. People beating everybody down. And you know what they say, you don't know your past, you don't remember your past, you're gonna remember your future. It's a shame. It's a shame because it's repeated itself. Time has repeated itself today. But I think it's also a good watch, because everyone that wants to yell or not think about how all these things have happened, this has happened before, and the other riots happened before '92. So I highly recommend it.
Yeah, I haven't seen that, so that sounds really interesting. I definitely have to watch that. It's is that like a 30 for 30 kind of like a style documentary, or
no? I think so. Kind of, yeah.
Cool. That sounds really interesting. I'll definitely check that out. Okay, great. Ryan, what's your first pick?
So just to break things up here, I've got a bit of a more of a lighthearted movie, I guess if you want to call it that. It's High Flying Bird from director Steven Soderbergh. We all know who he is. He directed Traffic, Aaron Brockovich, the Ocean's movies, and a favorite of Rachel and mine, Logan Lucky. It's about a basketball agent who, during a lockout, has to play several sides against each other to try and end the lockout. It's about a 90-minute movie, and what got it on my radar initially was that Soderbergh shot the entire thing on iPhones. And at first I was like, he shot the whole thing. How did he do that? And when I watched the movie, I'm like, okay, I see how he did it. He made the whole thing look very smooth and clean and very nice looking. The casting here is really good in there as well. Zazie Beetz is in there, who was objectively the best part of Deadpool 2, and it's not even a competition. There's also some other character actors in there, like Bill Duke, who has been in too many good things to mention, but I'll forever know him as Mac from Predator. Like, Mac! And he's really funny in High Flying Bird as well. And there's something about these types of movies where it's an agent going up against another team's agent, and then team owners and maybe the commissioner if they want to go that far. It's just business talk. Some people find that boring. I find it fascinating. And it's just, High Flying Bird is definitely something that flew under the radar, which is ironic considering its title. And I think everyone should definitely take a look.
When was it made?
2017, if I remember right.
I haven't heard of that. That sounds really interesting. I definitely have to check that out. Yeah, very good. Very good. Have you heard of that, Ron?
Nope.
Yeah.
The moment he said the name, I was all like, oh man, I'm in for a trip, because I've never heard this before.
Yeah. Sounds really good.
Plus, it's all about basketball and the business of basketball. And Rachel, you and I both know we're into that. So
yeah, that sounds really good. So I'm actually changing mine from the list that I sent over. Last minute change.
Here we go. Here we go. Don't occur, us.
Yeah.
Swerve.
So, what's that?
Swerve.
Yeah. So my next choice is actually a romantic comedy that I think that I've always thought was pretty underrated. This is called Something New. This is from 2006. And this stars Sanaa Lathan as a woman who is kind of frustrated about dating. She feels like she is not meeting the right kinds of guys. And she in particular just always saw herself dating a Black man. And then out of the blue, she meets this guy played by Simon Baker, who's white, and they have this incredible chemistry, but she really, really, really struggles. And I think why I think this movie is really good is obviously it's exploring a biracial relationship, which is important and interesting to do. But it also kind of talks about some of the struggles that Black women have in progressing in their careers. They call it the black tax in the movie, and how she kind of puts these barriers up because she just sort of anticipates that happening. And so I think that their relationship, they have huge chemistry, and almost that she can't even though she doesn't want to have this relationship, she can't deny it because it's so strong. And so it's something new. And the whole supporting cast is really nice, really well done. And I think that it's a well-written script. And it's got Blair Underwood in it. Mike Epps is in it. It's really well done. And I think it's one that more people should check out. It's way from 2006. So I don't know if either of you have heard of this one.
No.
I've never heard of it, but is Simon Baker the guy from The Mentalist?
Yes, he is.
I was thinking to myself, I'm like, that guy's name sounds familiar. I'm like, oh, he's from The Mentalist.
Yeah, that's the same one, and he's super hunky in it. He's very attractive.
There you go.
Yes. So yeah, I think that people will like it. It's available on Amazon Prime to watch. And if you like rom-coms like I do, then and something that has something I think to say and some good performances with some real heart, I think you should check it out. It's really good. Ron, what's your next pick?
Oh, don't throw it back to me. Okay, here we go, y'all. Here we go. I'm going with it's based kind of like a documentary. It's by director, y'all know her, and I always butcher her last name, so please forgive me. Ava DuVernay.
I think.
Always butchered that last part of her name every single time.
Sorry, Ava.
if it makes you feel any better, Ron, I struggle with everyone's names. I'm surprised I haven't called Rachel Rochelle or something.
It's coming. Don't worry.
So don't feel too bad.
I'm trying not to. Thank you, Brian. I appreciate that. This is called The 13th.
Yes.
And I remember a friend of mine told me about it, and I've always saw it on Netflix, but I never really clicked on it. And then one day he told me he saw it, and he said, "Ron, you gotta watch this. Like, it's really, really good." And it's basically about how, because the 13th Amendment abolished slavery, but it didn't mean that Blacks and African Americans were free. They still found a way to arrest them and to get them in prison and to really, really make life harder for them. You know, they taxed them in a way that while you're free, we can still put you in jail for basically petty crimes. And as time moves on, you see how the jail system was structured and built, and how as decades move, a lot of crimes, again, from the Reagan eras, from the Just Say No, and how they, from the cocaine, from the crack, and how which one was more taxed on harder for black people. So if you got charged with crack, you can prison for multiple years. But if you get charged with cocaine, you get a little bit of slap on the wrist. And even seeing it when black people go to jail, the system is built against them because once you get out of prison, you can't really get a life because the system is already set you up to fail. Because how many people we know that leave prison can get a good job? They can't. And it's heartbreaking. It really dives in full detail about the history from the beginning to the middle and a little bit for today. And it's sad, but also it's a good eye opener for us to understand and educate ourselves about it.
Yeah, this is a really excellent film. And one thing I admired about it is that it is extremely fair as far as it's not like a piece of propaganda. It's like some of these political documentaries can be so one-sided as far as their like I think Newt Gingrich is interviewed on here. You have like people from both parties that are interviewed and find fault. Like it's tough on the Obama administration. It's tough on obviously the Bush administration. It's tough on everybody. This is a national problem. So this is not a Democratic problem or a Republican problem. And I think that a lot of people are kind of hesitant sometimes with political documentaries that I don't know. There's some that they'll be overly manipulated, something like a Michael Moore kind of documentary.
Yeah.
But in this case, that's not the case. This is a very fair, reasonable look at something that is a huge problem that we need to face together. And that, the people are, the whole communities are ruined by things like the crime bill, and something that I think with the best of intentions has really hurt and we have hurt us, and we have people in prison that for doing things that it's ridiculous. Like, I mean, for smoking pot, things like that you're just like, what is going on? And so I think it's a really important documentary that we should all watch. And also, it's free right now, so you should watch it.
And just a small little thing, what Rachel said, she's absolutely right, because there are also former mayors, former senators that were on the documentary, and they admit that, yeah, I thought I was doing the right thing, but oh dang it, I didn't.
Yeah, I mean, like Joe Biden was a huge proponent of the crime bill. The crime bill was a thing to have in your notch on your belt. Every politician wanted to be associated with at the time, because I mean that's such a politically kind of, it's an easy sell for people. It's not like on the surface it seems very uncontroversial. I'm against crime. Who's not against crime? Like you know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like it seems like a very easy win for a politician, and so that's why I mean Hillary Clinton. The crime bill was very popular.
Yes.
And it's not until years later that we kind of realized what was actually happening and how it helped to start systematic or encourage more systematic racism and problems. So yeah, it's a very good choice. Have you gotten to see that yet, Ryan?
I've always meant to, but this isn't like anything personal. It's just I haven't seen it. It's not like, oh, I'm not going to bother myself with that. It's just like other stuff has gotten in the way, and just I have no excuse other than that. But now with the current times that we're living in, I really do not have an excuse not to watch it, because I think you both said my thoughts exactly. It's like, it's not a left or right thing. It's a problem that we all have to try and fix. And the politicizing of it is just makes me sick. And I don't really care what side of the aisle you sit on. It's like, racism is an evil that is just plagued this world for far too long. And I would appreciate it just if we just took some steps to try and just treat people with some level of respect. Like, it's like a golden rule. Like, we should know this stuff by now. It's like, you don't have to be a religious person to know this. It's just, it's day one. Like, treat your fellow human like you would like to be treated. But people just don't do it, unfortunately. So,
Well,
100%.
yeah. I mean, it's
what else can I say other than just, yeah, it's
yeah. Unfortunately, it's something that is taught because when you're little, you don't know. You know, you see
true.
everybody the same
You
when
just
you're a
copy.
little kid. I mean, even back in the 19th century, when you know, you had the kids of slaves and slave owners playing together, and then they have to be taught to hate and taught to subvert to subjugate people, and then it just continues on because of power and uh, the lust for power that
Mm-hmm.
that it has. And so yeah, it's a problem, and it's definitely a good documentary to watch. So all right, Ryan, what do you have as your next choice?
so my next choice is from 2016. It's a zombie film called Train to Busan. This is a Korean film, and let me just say the name of this director right, because like I said, I know me, and I will get this name wrong. So this is directed by Sang Ho Yeon. That's about as close as I'm gonna get.
I think it's great.
But this movie is about a father who is trying to reconnect with his daughter, and so they go on a train trip together. But the problem is a zombie apocalypse happens to break out,
Of course.
as normally what happens. And so Train to Busan is something that I searched out for because I saw the movie Parasite, which is also Korean. I absolutely loved it, and I was like, I wonder if Korea's got any other stuff out lately. And I found Train to Busan mostly because people were like, you got to see Train to Busan. You got to see Train to Busan. I'm like, okay, I'll see Train to Busan. And so I saw it, and I'm like, okay, I get it now. It reminds me a lot of Dawn of the Dead from George A. Romero. It's like it's a bunch of humans trapped in a confined space with zombies trying to come in, and it's just people stab each other in the back when they should be focusing on defeating the zombies or getting the hell out of there. And so it's a lot of backstabbing, it's a lot of score settling, and it's just like it's frustrating, but it's appreciated all at the same time because the movie is shot so well, and it's there's some shots where like, oh god, and like this is a time where I'm like, I think I've pretty much seen it all. But now it's like there were some of these shots where I was just like, oh good lord, I think I'm gonna turn my nightlight on tonight. But just to put the period at the end of the sentence, Train to Busan it's definitely not for everyone, and it's got some moments, but if you can get through it, it's definitely worth a shot.
Very cool.
Absolutely,
I've
I'm
heard
with you.
about it. I have not seen it because I am a little bit nervous when it comes to horror movies.
Same.
But I've heard really good things about this one, and I do like
Ronald,
some
you should
zombie
have seen
movies.
what I had to do to get this woman to watch Drive. It was like it was a nonstop like, Rachel, have you watched Drive yet? And she was like, is that like you've got to watch it. And she liked it. So
I did like it. Yeah, I did.
See, I told you.
Yeah. So I know I have to put on my big girl panties sometimes and watch horror movies.
I'm there with you, Rachel. I hate movies, so I'm on the side with you. Okay.
All right. Well, my next choice is also from Asia, and this is from this is my last choice, my third choice. This is called Shadow, and so this movie Shadow is a film by Zhang Yimou. And he's an incredible director, martial arts director, if you love martial arts, which I do. And this movie is about this rivalry between this commander and this other ruler, this emperor, and the one ends up in kind of hiding, and then sends out this other person that so there's sort of this shadow of this person to protect him, and And the plot, it doesn't really matter. The plot is inconsequential. The action set pieces are so amazing in this movie. Particularly, they have all of these scenes with these umbrellas that are made with blades, and so they do the martial arts with the umbrellas, and it's amazing. And the whole thing is shot in has a color palette that's very like silver and black and white. And so then when you get the violence, which this movie is quite violent, it's not scary, but it's very violent. And you get the blood with the red, and next to this like monochromatic cinematography that you've had is just very, very memorable. And there's kind of a love triangle in the story, and I normally hate that, but I actually kind of dug it here. And it's just to watch, at least for the action set pieces, was some of the most incredible cinematography that we had in all of last year. And it's I don't know how they were able to stage these fights is unbelievable. So if you like martial arts, you gotta see it. It was really cool.
Oh man,
yeah.
I have martial arts.
I just recently found a copy of Enter the Dragon, and I was watching that, and it was really good. So
that's really
I've
good.
been kind of in a martial arts movie kind of mood, and Rachel, when you said umbrellas with blades on them, the entire time I was thinking, and this is why we shouldn't let Eli Roth make Singing in the Rain.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah, but if you watched Kung Fu Panda 2, they actually bring in some of those elements of the blades.
They do.
In the
yes, they do with the peacock. Like, God bless the writer and director of that movie. They somehow made a peacock threatening. A peacock.
Yeah.
They somehow managed to do it.
But there's this whole scene too where they're actually there's this flood, and they use the umbrellas as basically like sleds and so you got this whole army of people with these blade umbrellas that are sliding down into the town that they're going to seek revenge off of this rivalry that's in the movie. And it's really cool. I highly recommend it.
Sounds cool just by you describing it.
Yeah. Oh, good. I'm glad I successfully described it. I actually kind of love martial arts movies. I need to watch more of them, but I love it, like Ip Man, and I love and the Enter the Dragon. I love the Rumble in the Bronx, movies like that. There's some of that. I just think it's really fun.
Oh, the race.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's definitely one of those movies that fell under the radar that really shouldn't from last year. So neither of you have seen Shadow then?
No, I haven't.
Not until you told me all about it.
Oh, good. I'm glad I got introduced. All right, Ron, what's your last pick?
All right. Oh, yeah. Okay, then. And Rachel and I talked about this one, and I think it fits to just this topic only because it's a good learning. Because again, basically of everything I just been talking about, and a topic we brought up before about racism and how people aren't born racist. People aren't born with hate in their heart. And this film really teaches that. American History X.
Oh, yeah.
It is still to this day one of my all-time favorite films. I loved it so much because they gave us, with Edward Norton, because to me, this is also Edward Norton's best performance. I don't think he's ever topped this for me. How him being a neo-Nazi and the evil things that he has done. But throughout the movie, it goes from present day to flashbacks to the past, and you're just seeing Derek from where he was from neo-Nazi to when he isn't a neo-Nazi, and you're just seeing him, the transformation of how he became it and how he didn't want to do it anymore, because everything with anything is just, it's planted. Something in his past hurt him, and he wanted to find something to ease the pain and put the pain to something else. And what takes for him to see the light is when he goes to prison and he meets another black person and he just sees him for what he is. He doesn't see him for color. He sees as a person. And that shade of hate slowly fades away, even to his favorite teacher who's African American. And I love how it has so many layers to it, how it's not afraid to be in your face about it, but also too shows you that you can fall, but you can change and you can get back up. But also too, life is not fair. There's consequences to everything we do. And sometimes our past comes back to haunt us. So this movie touches everything right. It's on YouTube. It was on Netflix. It was. I remember that, but it ain't no more. But you can rent it. That's $3.
Yeah. I have not seen this one, and I was surprised because I've only seen the imagery, and I was like, wow, it looks very it's very startling to see, this guy with the swastikas and everything on him and tattooed on him. But it sounds really interesting. So I appreciate you picking that.
Yes, it is a rough watch. Like it's straight in your face with a lot of hard scenes, but also too, it has a big emotional scenes that really makes your heart melt. And then you're just like, dang it, man. Like, oh.
Yeah. Have you seen that one, Ryan?
I haven't seen it all the way through, but I have seen, and
I understand that.
And I think Ron will know this scene, the curb biting scene.
Ooh.
Oh, God.
Ooh.
Because I heard about it on a podcast, and I went out of my way to watch it. Big mistake. Big mistake.
It's so rough.
I will watch it one day, though, because I know it's like, okay, this has got to be, like, I got to get over this. And I tend to like Edward Norton in most of the things that he is in. So it's weird that I haven't seen it other than that other scene, but I'll definitely go out of my way to see it. Go ahead. One more note before we move on. I don't know how familiar you guys are with Joe Rogan, but about 6 months ago, he did a podcast with a man named Daryl Davis, who in his life, Daryl Davis, has converted about 200 men out of the Ku Klux Klan. And that's not 20. That's not like, no, it's 200. And to hear how he does it, it's just like, wow, why didn't I think of that? But it's just for someone who is a black man to just actually like walk up to someone and say, hey, you're in the Klan. Why are you in the Klan? And they're like, well, for these reasons. And then just break down their argument. And they're just like, my entire life has been a lie. And Davis has like Ku Klux Klan robes, and he knows all the hierarchies and how like at the state level they're called like the Grand Dragon and the Grand Cyclops and the Grand like eyeballs and wizards and just it's silly, but it's the KKK. They're a hate organization. They're just an outdated organization built on hate. But for this guy, Daryl Davis, and I'm not doing the podcast justice, you have to just go listen to it. It's just to hear how he was able to do it. It was like my heart grew 3 sizes, like in the Grinch.
Yeah. That sounds really good. All right, Ryan, what's your last pick?
So my last pick is we've talked mostly about Korean and like African American cinema. Well, I'm going to switch it up a bit and talk about a little Spanish cinema. I'm talking about Pan's Labyrinth. This is from director Guillermo del Toro, director of the Hellboy movies, The Shape of Water. He's been doing a lot of good stuff lately. He's going to be directing Pinocchio, the live-action Pinocchio. God help us for that.
That's going to be wild.
We know that. My soul is not prepared for that. But Pan's Labyrinth is about a young girl during World War II who discovers a world underneath her own. I think I can describe the movie kind of like a twisted version of Alice in Wonderland. It's this young girl who goes to, a wonderland filled with crazy creatures and just beautiful imagery. And what makes Guillermo del Toro's movies so fascinating is that the plot, largely speaking, doesn't matter. They're just vehicles for him to just share his love of monster movies and monster makeup and monster effects. Del Toro is someone who just prides himself on using CGI in like as little as possible and making things as tactile and practical as possible. Like the troll market in Hellboy 2, or just too many other examples to count. But in terms of Pan's Labyrinth, I think he may have some of his most creative designs to date. Like just, the guy with the eyes in his hands and he's like this, and just I can't remember his name at the second, but it's pretty freaky. And just the fairies and the trolls and the goblins, it's a visual feast. It's a little light on story, but like I said, Pan's Labyrinth is essentially a vehicle for Guillermo del Toro to just go nuts in the visuals and the makeup department. So I wouldn't say it's his best film, but I would say it's one of his best. So if you haven't seen it, I do recommend it wholeheartedly.
Yeah, you definitely have to see it. It's very bloody, but it's a fairy tale for adults, which you don't get very often.
Oh no!
What's that?
I thought for a moment they said fairy tale. I'm like, oh no, it's gonna say fairy tale for kids. Like, oh no,
no.
No.
Oh,
It's a fairy tale for adults, which is such a unique experience. I mean, and that's basically what he gave us with The Shape of Water as well. It was basically a fairy tale, but for adults, and in here even more so. In the themes and style and just everything about it, it's very unique, and I really enjoy it as well. So yeah, great choice. Have you seen Pan's Labyrinth?
I have not, but I do remember when Ryan brought up about the eyes. I think I saw like either a clip or a trailer of that, and I saw it.
This is like the most recognizable thing from that entire movie. You do this in front of someone, they're like, Pan's Labyrinth.
I saw that, and I was like, I don't know what that is. But I ain't gonna see it. Okay, I'm gonna just go to bed and go to sleep because I don't need that in my life.
Watch it with the lights on.
2 flashlights next to me.
Yeah. Well, very, very great picks, everybody. I think we've given the listeners some really good choices of a variety of films that you can watch and that help to give you a more diverse experience in your film viewing, which I think is really important. And I think that Roger Ebert said that that movies are a machine for creating empathy. And I think a lot of the films, even something like a zombie movie or, whatever it might be, that they have metaphors for our society. They have, and sometimes they're very, very searing, realistic, and sometimes they're more fanciful. But either way, they hopefully at their core will help you to be able to have more empathy for other people and to be able to walk in their shoes. And there's so many films that we could talk about that do a great job with that. I mean, Moonlight was such a eye-opening experience for me in that way, to be able to walk in the shoes of a person that I will probably never meet in my life, that and him being in Florida and everything, and me being in Utah, but I can watch the movie and I can experience life through them. And that's the great gift that these films can give us, is they can help us to have empathy and hopefully be better people as a result. So it's not just watching for entertainment's sake, it's watching to improve and become better and understand people better. And so that's kind of my closing thoughts. But Ron, thanks so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. This was a lot of fun to collaborate together, and we'll definitely have to have you back for sure. And where can people find you as far as your content and your interviews that you do?
Well, thank you, Rachel. Thank you, Rachel and Ryan, for having me here. I had a good time talking with you guys. I couldn't stop grinning. It was a great time. And if y'all want to go see me and see me chat with some good people and get to know them better, and for them to be open up and get real with me, go find me at Ronald E. Smith on YouTube. I promise you, I ain't hard to find. Type in Ronald E. Smith, you'll see me. I promise you guys.
Yes, I'll have all that information in the description section, so make sure you guys follow Ron. Ryan, where can people find you?
So people can find me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd at RyanCam20. On my channel, RyanCam Movie Reviews, I just uploaded my episode for the AFI project called For Some Like It Hot, my review of that movie, which is one of my favorite comedies. That was a lot of fun to make. I'm also reviewing all of Christopher Nolan's movies in honor of Tenet. So it's just a lot of stuff going on. And of course, I'm doing this podcast with you, Rachel, which is just so much fun. And Ron, we have definitely got to have you back.
Yeah, that's so fun.
My man. Thank you guys.
Yeah. And I'm going to do mine again. So I'll have mine last. And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all over social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. So please check that out. And you can follow me at the Hallmarkies Podcast, where we have a lot of fun over there as well. And we'd love to hear your suggestions of what you have been watching as we all try to learn more in this moment that we've all been experiencing. We'd love to hear your thoughts and what you think about the different films that we talked about. That would be amazing. Please put in the comment section or on Twitter, and we would love to hear your thoughts. So thanks so much, everybody. This was great, and we'll be back next week talking more hidden gems from our streaming services. And thanks so much. Talk to y'all later. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Be safe.
Did it.